Hey guys, it's VinnyLambo here, and this is the new 2020 Dell XPS 15. Starting at $12.99, it comes packed with a 10th gen Intel Core i5-10300H, which is a quad-core processor that can turbo up to 4.5 GHz. It also comes with 8GB of DDR4 2933 MHz RAM, and a 256GB M.2 NVMe SSD. The screen is a 15.6-inch 1920 by 1200 Infinity Edge display, has a brightness of 500 nits, and it's a 16 by 10 aspect ratio. This, combined with the very small bezels, creates an immersion experience that's unlike any other laptop. It also has Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5, and a 56 watt-hour battery. This model that I have here is the base model besides for the storage. I opted for the higher storage model at 512GB, but I think that's plenty for any daily laptop user. I have the base model in front of me, instead of the higher models that might come with a discrete 1650, to showcase how well the base model can game. Now that we have all the specs laid out, we're going to try and see if this thing can game. Again, this is not meant to be a gaming laptop, but coming with a brand new 10th gen processor and integrated graphics, I want to see how well it can run some games. First up, we have Overwatch. This game becoming very popular due to its esports appearances and just because it's a very fun game to pick up and play with your friends. It's become a common choice for video game benchmarks. I'm going to be trying to run this at full res, and it defaulted to low settings. Doesn't look that bad yet, but then I looked at the rescale percentage and it was below 50%. So in reality, I was running more of a 720p resolution. I was happy to see that the 16 by 10 did fit really well on this display, and as you can tell, it looks really nice. Once we hop into a game, you can see that we actually get well above 60 FPS. Then, once we start to get to some action, explosions, etc., we start to drop down to the 50s, but nothing ever below 45. I'm especially surprised about how good it looks even though it's scaled down to below 50% 3D rendering. Shadows and everything are turned to the lowest settings. As I said, the preset was set to low, and I'm really surprised how there was no stuttering or hiccups. Next up, we're going to try Forza Horizon 3. I heard problems about Forza Horizon 4 not being able to run, and I didn't want to download it just to have an error. Well, just for my luck, Forza Horizon 3 did not work either. Apparently it needs a dedicated graphics card, and Intel just wasn't good enough with their integrated. Unfortunately, I won't be able to test it, but that was great downloading 55 gigs for no reason. Now, we have a game that should be able to run on most decently spec'd laptops, and that is Fortnite. Being free, anyone with any sort of device that can run Windows or Mac OS should be able to download and play Fortnite, whether it be at the worst resolution or at the best. I actually ran it with decent settings, running it at 1280 by 800, which is a 16 by 10 resolution, uncapped frame rate, and it was actually at 100% 3D resolution. I turned the view distance up to far because that's probably the most crucial part, and everything off besides for textures being on medium. Once I hopped into the game, you could see it was a little laggy in the lobby, but that was due to a whole bunch of players being at the same place at once, and just a lot of action with shooting and whatever else. Once I did get into the battle bus, there was a few lag spikes, but nothing had dropped too far below 60. Once I landed though, my experience was pretty good. Being inside a house with a whole bunch of other people seemed to keep up pretty well with this laptop, and once I started getting into building and shooting, it didn't really drop that low into frames. It's definitely playable for what I think would be playable, and I think any one of you guys who are looking for this laptop would be able to play this game just fine. Next up is another esports title, Rocket League. Running this on 1280 by 800, again a 16 by 10 resolution. Running with VSync turned off because I saw a huge performance decrease when I turned it on, and everything else set to basically the high performance or performance preset. I uncapped the frame rate, turned anti-aliasing off, and turned off most of the things that wouldn't really make the experience that much better, and saves a lot of performance. In the end, I did end up running between 40 and 70 FPS depending on what I was doing and the map I was playing on. Again, definitely playable whether you're using a keyboard or mouse because the keyboard is really spectacular, or whether you're plugging in a controller. When I zoom in, you can definitely see that there are some particle effects and that the car does not look as good as you would hope, but running on this resolution on a screen like this size doesn't really look that terrible. Of course, I have to try CSGO. It used to be really easy to run on any platform, but since they revamped their graphics and made it free, they definitely took a bigger toll on the performance. Surprisingly, running at 1280 by 800, I was able to run on all high and very high settings, and able to get a very comfortable frame rate between 60 and 90. Once I hopped into a game, I did decide to turn down the shaders and the anti-aliasing, which I think really helped the performance and the little lag spikes that I was getting, but otherwise it was a very fun and very easy to play game. I never saw any huge lag spikes, and there was definitely no problems with me playing through Wi-Fi. Again, very playable and very easy to run. And running on 1280 by 800, I thought it was going to look bad, but surprisingly, I didn't even notice it. Here's where I may have pushed this laptop a little too far. I tried playing PUBG. Now I've heard that PUBG was able to run on a multitude of low-powered and high-powered laptops, and I wanted to try it for myself, but unfortunately I seem to have gotten some sort of DirectX error or something like that. It tells me to reinstall the software, and I tried reinstalling everything I had to, even the game, and nothing seemed to work. It's a shame, but then again, PUBG was never known for being able to run on low-powered platforms, so I never really thought this was going to run that well anyway. Now, I tried hopping into an older but still really awesome title, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Multiplayer. I tried running it at 1280 by 800, again a 16 by 10 resolution to fit this amazing display, and I turned off VSync, no shadows, secular map on, depth of field off, and everything else off. I kept the texture quality to automatic because I was doing some reading, and apparently it can change when you're in between matches. So I thought that was going to be the best dynamic setting I could put, because I didn't know what this laptop could handle. Once I hopped into a game, I was able to get a pretty steady 30 to 60 FPS. I feel like if I turned down the resolution, or maybe just turned down all the textures to the lowest settings possible, I could have gotten a little higher, but even when I turned VSync off, I was still jumping between 30, 40, 50, and 60 FPS increments. I never really got above 60 FPS, but it's definitely playable. If you want to mess around with this laptop, I have to try Sims 3. This seems like one of those laptops that people who would play Sims would definitely get. So I fired it up, not really expecting it to be that difficult to run, because it is pretty old. However, I was doing some reading, and people did say that this game, even though it is very old, still takes a huge toll on your graphics. I was really surprised, so I tried it out myself. Running at 1280 by 800, and as you can see, a mix of very low settings and some very high settings, I tried playing this game. However, I was really surprised to see how hard this laptop was struggling trying to play this game. Even though that most of the settings were turned down to low, and it was running an 800p resolution, the fans were loudest on this game by far. I don't know if it's poor optimization or whatever, but I was getting huge lag spikes and pretty choppy gameplay all the way through. I was really surprised by this. Maybe if I did play with these settings a little bit more, turn down the resolution, or maybe turn down the refresh rate to 30 Hz, I will be able to play this game without any problems. In conclusion, this thing is not a gaming monster. However, for being an ultra thin and light that's made for the top end of the market, starting at $1,300, I think that this is pretty good. It's not going to be able to run all your favorite games at max settings, and it won't even be able to run some older games pretty well at all, although high settings. Throughout this entire time, I was seeing a CPU clock still being able to turbo well above 3 GHz even though the base clock is at 2.5. The fans were virtually silent, and the only time where I really heard them was playing The Sims. So that's it. That is the gaming test for the brand new 2020 Dell XPS 15. Again, this is the base model because I know people who are going for the base model want to see how well this thing can game at base spec, and even though I did get the higher storage, that doesn't really affect the performance. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys are interested, or if one of your friends are interested, Please make sure to share this to your friends to educate them on how well this thing can game, or how poorly this thing can game. Comment down below what you would like to see next.